Good morning. This is the Grant Caldwell Report. As Washington wakes up today, a confrontation from Capitol Hill is already shaping the political landscape, and it centers on accountability, transparency, and the handling of the Epstein files. Before we get into it, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn notifications on. This story is developing, and updates could land at any moment today. Here's what you need to know. A Senate oversight hearing turned tense as Attorney General Pam Bondi directly challenged lawmakers pressing her over the Department of Justice's handling of Epstein-related materials. What began as routine questioning quickly shifted into a sharp exchange about disclosure, timing, and whether political pressure is being applied to prosecutorial decisions. This was not a symbolic appearance. This was a line being drawn. Lawmakers demanded answers on why certain Epstein files were released, why others remain under review, and whether the public is being given the full picture. Bondi pushed back firmly, making it clear that prosecutorial judgment will not be driven by headlines, election cycles, or political theater. That response is already reverberating this morning, because the Epstein case is no longer viewed by the public as a closed chapter. It has become a test case for institutional trust, whether powerful systems are willing to explain themselves, and whether accountability is real or selective. Bondi argued that incomplete disclosure can distort facts, damage reputations, and undermine due process. Several senators appeared visibly dissatisfied with that position, pressing harder as the exchange continued. The tension in that room wasn't about documents alone, it was about control. Who decides when the public gets answers? Who sets the pace? And who absorbs the fallout when trust breaks down? Those questions are now front and center today. This story is no longer just about Epstein. It's about whether institutions are headed toward cooperation or open conflict, and what that means as scrutiny intensifies. And that's exactly where we go next. Here is what is confirmed, based on official records, public statements, and consistent reporting from multiple national outlets. Attorney General Pam Bondi appeared before the Senate as part of a scheduled oversight hearing focused on the Department of Justice's operations, transparency standards, and document handling procedures. During that hearing, lawmakers directed a series of questions toward the DOJ's handling of materials connected to the Jeffrey Epstein case. Lawmakers pressed for faster disclosure and broader public explanation. Bondi pushed back by emphasizing due process, evidentiary review, and the legal risks of premature release. That is not an admission of wrongdoing. It is a statement of institutional boundary. Claims suggesting that the Attorney General confirmed hidden indictments or acknowledged suppressed information are not supported by the record. No such statements were made. Assertions that the DOJ is blocking transparency also lack confirmation. Courts, not prosecutors, control the unsealing of records tied to civil proceedings. Another claim circulating is that the hearing marked a turning point in the Epstein case. That is premature. Oversight hearings do not automatically trigger investigations, and public pressure does not substitute for legal thresholds. What did change is perception. The visible tension between lawmakers and the DOJ reinforced existing public skepticism. When institutions disagree publicly, viewers often assume something is being concealed, but disagreement does not equal guilt, and restraint does not equal obstruction. This is where interpretation becomes dangerous. The Epstein case carries emotional and moral weight, and rightly so. But that weight also amplifies misinterpretation. The absence of immediate action is being read by some as evidence of protection, when it may simply reflect legal reality. The key takeaway from this section is straightforward. The claims outpaced the facts. The hearing revealed friction, not findings, and any conclusions drawn beyond that are assumptions, not conclusions supported by evidence. Which brings us to the core issue this morning, where accountability actually resides when institutions clash in public. When institutions collide in public, accountability becomes less about headlines and more about who actually holds authority and how it is exercised. In this case, the tension is clear. Congress asserts its oversight role, demanding transparency on matters of public interest. The Department of Justice asserts its obligation to protect due process, evidentiary integrity, and the rights of individuals not charged with crimes. Both claims are legitimate. The friction arises when those responsibilities overlap. Oversight is not prosecution, and prosecution is not politics. Lawmakers are empowered to ask questions, request information, and apply public pressure. What they are not empowered to do is dictate prosecutorial timelines or override legal standards. That boundary is not a loophole. It is a safeguard. Without it, justice becomes reactive, not deliberate. At the same time, restraint cannot become opacity. When public confidence is already fragile, institutions must recognize that silence creates its own consequences. The Epstein case, in particular, sits at the intersection of law, morality, and elite accountability. The longer explanations are deferred, the more space is created for speculation to fill the vacuum. This is where power dynamics matter. The DOJ controls charging decisions. Courts control record releases. Congress controls oversight hearings and funding. The public controls trust. When any one of those elements breaks alignment, the system strains. What yesterday's hearing revealed was not a conspiracy. It revealed a stalemate. Lawmakers want clarity now. Prosecutors insist clarity must follow process. Neither side fully trusts the other to manage the fallout. And that stalemate carries risk. If institutions retreat into defensive postures, accountability becomes performative. Hearings generate heat but no light. Statements harden, positions calcify, and the public grows more cynical, not more informed. Real accountability, if it comes, will not emerge from a single exchange. It will come from documented decisions, clear explanations, and measurable action, or a clear statement of why action is not warranted. That is the standard the public should demand. And that leads to the final question this morning. What actually happens next? And what should viewers be watching for instead of noise? As we close this morning, it's important to step back and understand what this moment actually represents and what it does not. What happened in Washington was not a legal breakthrough. It was not a revelation of hidden charges, and it was not confirmation of wrongdoing. What it was, instead, was a rare public collision between institutions that are supposed to operate in parallel, not in conflict. That matters. When oversight becomes confrontational and prosecution becomes defensive, public trust sits in the middle. The Epstein case already carries enormous weight because it exposed how power, money, and influence can distort justice. That history is why every development now draws intense scrutiny, and why restraint is often misread as concealment. But accountability is not instant. It is procedural, it is documented, and it is slow by design. The danger in moments like this is not that institutions move carefully. It's that the public is pushed toward conclusions before evidence arrives. That erosion of patience is exactly how confidence collapses, even when systems are functioning as intended. So here's what actually deserves attention going forward. Watch for formal actions, not sound bites. Watch for court filings, not speculation. Watch for clear statements backed by documentation, not pressure-driven responses. If accountability comes, it will come through process, not confrontation. And if no action follows, the explanation matters just as much as the outcome. This story is not finished, but it is also not what social media wants it to be. This is the Grant Caldwell Report. We don't trade in rumor. We don't rush judgment. And we don't confuse tension with truth. If you want updates when, and only when, verified information emerges, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn notifications on. We'll follow the facts, we'll track the institutions, and we'll tell you what actually matters.